$2,000 per test. That's what the GI Bill will put toward a licensing or certification exam, and the SIE costs $100. So for a veteran, the entry exam to the securities industry can cost nothing at all. And there's a condition attached to that money that quietly decides whether you should use it here at all, which we'll get to before the end. This is episode 2, and it's the shortest path to $100 we know of. If you're not a veteran or a qualifying dependent, this one won't apply to you, and I'd rather say that in the first minute than the last.
Erica here, and the number is straight from VA.gov. You can use part of your entitlement to cover the costs of tests, no more than $2,000 per test.
Kai here, and against a $100 exam, that ceiling isn't the constraint. Almost nothing about this is about the ceiling,
which makes the SIE close to the ideal test for this benefit. It's cheap, it needs no employer, and anyone 18 or over can sit it.
And here's the line that surprises people most, because it runs against how every other benefit seems to work. VA lists the situations where they'll still pay you back, and one of them is that you didn't score high enough to get your license or certification.
so you can fail the SIE and still get your $100 back.
You can, which changes the risk calculation for anyone hesitating about whether they're ready. The money isn't what you're risking.
There's one real gate though, and it's worth checking before you book anything. Only tests approved for the GI Bill are covered, and a word on who this covers, because it's wider than people assume. It isn't only the veteran. Certain dependents using transferred entitlement and survivors under the Frye Scholarship or Chapter 35 can claim test fees too. The form has a box for exactly that case, which tells you how normal it's.
So the first thing to do isn't to book the exam. It's to look the test up in VA's own comparison tool and confirm it's on the approved list.
And then the paperwork, which is one form, and we'll walk it box by box.
Cynthia, if they pay even when you fail, where is the catch? Because free money with no downside usually is not.
It usually isn't, and there's a real cost here that VA states plainly. $2,000 a test, a $100 exam, paid even on a fail, and one sentence that keeps it honest. Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it. Kai asks where the catch is, and VA puts it in one sentence. We'll charge your entitlement based on the amount we paid back to you.
Which is the whole trade, and it deserves someone who works on how these benefits are structured.
Professor Osei flagged that exact sentence to me before we started, so he should be the one to open it up.
It's the sentence I'd underline too, because people read the 2000 and stop. GI Bill entitlement isn't a pot of money sitting in an account. It's a quantity of months, and those months are what a degree is paid out of.
So a test reimbursement isn't coming out of some separate pool.
There's no separate pool. Reimbursing your test converts a slice of those months into $100. The slice is small because the amount is small, but it's the same finite resource a semester comes out of.
And that's why the honest answer to should I use it depends entirely on what else you're planning.
It does. If you've 36 months untouched and no degree plans, the question barely exists. Take the $100. If you're partway through a degree with a few months left and a final year to fund, then spending any of it deserves a moment's thought.
How would somebody even know where they stand?
Your statement of benefits shows remaining entitlement, and you should read it before you file anything. Not because the answer is usually no, because deciding on purpose is different from deciding by accident.
And there's a genuine alternative worth naming rather than pretending this is the only route.
There's a second-order effect worth naming, and it's the reason I'd lean yes for most people. Entitlement you never spend is worth nothing. Months don't convert to cash at the end, and they don't roll anywhere. So the comparison isn't $100 against a slice of months in the abstract. It's $100 against a slice of months you may genuinely never use. You can simply pay the $100 yourself and leave the entitlement whole. For a lot of people, that's the better trade, and nobody at VA will be upset with you.
Which is the correct framing. This benefit isn't a prize you're failing to collect. It's an option, and options are worth exactly what the alternative costs. Here the alternative is $100.
So the honest version is that it's nearly free, not free, and the nearly is measured in months rather than dollars.
Professor Ose, thank you. Months rather than dollars is the sentence I'd want people to keep.
Kay got there before I finished, which is the fastest anyone has taken that off me. Read your statement first, everyone.
One form. That's the entire administrative burden here, and most of it's your name and address.
It's VA Form 220803, Request for Reimbursement of Licensing or Certification Test Fees. The current revision is January 2026.
And 2 boxes on it are where people actually go wrong, so let's put it on screen rather than describe it.
Item 9, date test taken and test results. And the form says in brackets that you must submit your test results with this form,
which is the box that catches the fail case. You submit your results whatever they say. A failing score is still a result, and the form is asking for the result, not for a pass.
So somebody who failed and quietly assumed they were disqualified never files and never gets the $100 back.
There's one more thing about item 9 that trips people, and it's about timing rather than content. You can't file this before you have a result because the result is part of the claim, so the sequence is fixed. Pay, sit, receive the score report, then file. Anyone who tries to claim in advance is going to be sent away and will probably not come back.
And that's a pure paperwork loss. Nothing about the rules stopped them.
And one small thing that saves a resubmission. Put the exact name of the test as the testing body writes it, not your shorthand for it. A claim that says securities exam rather than the full published name gives the reviewer nothing to match against the approved list, and it comes straight back to you.
Item 10 is the other one. Total cost of tests including mandatory fees.
Including mandatory fees is doing work in that sentence. People write the exam price and leave the rest.
If there's a mandatory registration or administrative fee on top, it belongs in that box because VA reimburses the cost including those fees. Understating it just means you get less back.
And then the attachments, which the form is blunt about. You must include a copy of your test results and receipt for proof of payment amount.
So save the receipt at the moment you pay. Not later, when you're hunting through an inbox from 8 months ago, and a practical note on where it goes. If you file on paper, the form itself tells you to return it to the VA office that handles your area, and page 2 of the form lists them. Sending it to the wrong office isn't fatal, but it adds weeks, and weeks are the one thing this process has plenty of already.
And you don't have to use paper at all. VA lets you apply online rather than filling out and sending the form, which for most people is the faster route.
Can I file the claim before I actually sit the exam? People ask that constantly, and the answer is no. Same information either way. The boxes are the boxes. So let's put actual numbers on the table because the arithmetic here is unusually simple and unusually favorable.
And it's worth doing out loud rather than gesturing at.
Professor Ose is still with us for this.
The exam fee is $100. The ceiling on the benefit is $2,000. So you're claiming 5% of what the program allows for a single test, which is about as far from the limit as you can be.
And if it's approved, the reimbursement is the full 100?
The cost of the test including mandatory fees up to the ceiling. At $100, the ceiling never binds, so the cash cost of sitting the SIE for an eligible veteran with entitlement remaining is $0.
And the fail case is the part that changes behavior because it removes the reason people wait.
It does. Think about what someone hesitating is actually protecting. They're protecting $100 against the chance they aren't ready. Remove the $100 from the equation, and what's left is only the time and their own readiness.
Which doesn't mean walk in unprepared.
It emphatically doesn't, and I'd resist that reading. A failed attempt still costs you the study weeks, the day, and the wait before you can sit again. What it no longer costs is the fee. Those are different things.
And the one real cost stays where we left it in scene 2.
A slice of entitlement, charged on the amount reimbursed. For a $100 test, that slice is small. It's still not nothing, and anyone with a degree in their plans should know they spent it.
And there's a scenario worth working through because it's the one that actually happens. Someone sits the SIE, fails by a small margin, pays another $100, sits it again, and passes. Both attempts are reimbursable test fees. The second one isn't disqualified because the first existed, so the honest bottom line is no cash cost, a small entitlement cost, and no penalty for a fail.
Which is a genuinely good deal, and I say that as the one who came in suspicious of it.
Professor Osei, thank you. Zero cash, a small slice of months is what I'd want on the fridge.
K-Suspicion did more for this segment than my arithmetic did. Stay suspicious of the next one, too.
So here's the order of operations, and it's 4 steps, none of which take an afternoon.
First, confirm the test is approved. VA's comparison tool lists licenses, certifications, and prep courses, and only approved tests are covered. Do this before you book, not after.
Second, look at your remaining entitlement so the decision is deliberate rather than accidental.
Third, save the receipt on the day you pay, and save your score report on the day you sit. Both of them attached to the form.
Fourth, file. Either online or on Form 22-0803 with your test results and receipt for proof of payment, and a timing caution that costs people real money. Don't let the claim go stale in a drawer. The evidence you need is a receipt and a score report, and both are easiest to produce in the week it happens. 6 months later, you're emailing a testing center asking them to reissue something you already had. And one more sequencing point because it decides whether any of this works. Do the approved list check before you pay, not after. If the test is not on the list, no form fixes that, and you have simply bought an exam at full price. It is a 2-minute lookup against $100.
And file even if you failed, because that's the step people skip, and it costs them the whole $100.
And the honest caveat we've carried all episode belongs here too, rather than buried in the middle.
If your entitlement is nearly gone and there's a degree in your plans, paying the $100 yourself is a perfectly good answer. This is an option, not an obligation.
And if you've got months to spare and no other plans for them, there's no argument on the other side at all. Take it.
Next time we start Section 1 properly with the SEC, FINRA, and the self-regulatory organizations and who actually has authority over what. If one thing survives today, make it this. A $100 exam, a $2,000 ceiling, payback even on a fail, in exchange for a slice of months you may never otherwise use.
And the form is 1 page of boxes. That's the whole obstacle.
If you're working toward this exam, subscribing keeps the course arriving in order, and the free practice sets on the site are there whenever you want to test yourself. So before you go, tell me, have you ever left a benefit unclaimed because the paperwork looked worse than it was? Go and check the approved list tonight. This is Cynthia, and I'll see you in episode 10.